Hi, I'm Laura Beth Guthrie, and for those of you who don't know me, I'm the founder of the Natural Wellness Transformations School and Clinic. We have an online school, I do a podcast, lots of cool things out there. If you're not following us on Instagram, go to Instagram, look at Natural Wellness Transformation. That's our handle, Natural Wellness Transformation, and follow us. There's some cool stuff that I've got going on over there. For those of you who haven't been listening to the podcast, you may not know that I am about to graduate with my master's in public health with a concentration in functional nutrition. So today I really kind of wanted to take you to my garden and show you how I go about making kale powder. I love making kale powder, especially as it starts to get a little later in the season. Most of you know that you can grow kale in Alabama almost all winter as long as there's not like a severe frost. If we do get to a point where we're going to have ice or frost or snow, that kind of thing, then I will go out there and I will cover the plants to try to keep them all healthy. So far I haven't had any issues with any of them dying. Not saying that it won't happen eventually, but where we are in Alabama, we're far enough south to where we can grow kale most of the winter. So we eat a bunch. I give some to friends and family. I've given some to a couple of the local food banks, that kind of thing. But now we've gotten to a point where I need to get a lot of my seedlings in the ground. The tomatoes and the squash need to be in the ground, and my kale is still exploding. Y'all, it's everywhere. It's amazing. So what I've ended up doing today is I have started to dehydrate the kale that we have, and we're putting it into the oven for a few hours, dehydrating it, and then I will grind it up and actually make a powder out of it using the molcajete. And I'm going to show you how to do that today. As you saw, I got a lot of kale out of the garden today, just trying to clear out those last plants. And so what I've been doing is I've been pulling them away from the stem and then breaking them into smaller pieces and laying them on the parchment paper. If your skin is really sensitive, it can be a good thing to wear gloves while you're doing this. It's too fine, I think, for me to show you in the camera. Yeah, it's not going to show up. But there are little hairs all over. Yeah, it's too fine to see. But there are hairs all over the stems of kale. So you're going to want to. So you may want to use gloves if you have real sensitive skin. It'll just be more comfortable. We want to strip the leaves off of the stalks because the stalks are too thick. They will not dehydrate well. And if you decide to dehydrate the stalks, they have to be done separately from the leaves. Fresh kale is going to be your best source of all the amino acids, the vitamin C, everything that's so good in kale. But if you get to a point where you have so much of it you can't possibly use it before it goes bad, that's when it's time to do something like this and make a powder. Powders can be used in smoothies, they can be used in soups, anything like that that you just want a little added boost to. As you can see, I'm not letting them overlap very much. There can be a little bit of overlap because they're going to shrink significantly before you bring them out. But I don't want them so overlapped that they can't begin to dehydrate. Once these are ready, I'm just going to slip them in the oven. I like to line my baking trays with parchment so that I don't have to worry about any kind of leftover grease or anything getting onto the leaves. If you have a dehydrator, you can use that. It takes a little longer because you put it on a little lower heat. But if you don't have one, don't go out and spend the money on one. Just use your oven for now. About 1 cup of kale is going to come out to about 1/8 a cup of powder. When you're using the powder, you're not going to need much of it because it does condense so much during the dehydration process. So now I'm just going to set this in the oven as well. Once you're ready, you're just going to cut your oven on its lowest setting. Mine goes to about, I think, 170 on the warm setting. Yes, so it went to 170 on the warm setting, which is the lowest setting. And it just beeped. I've been doing this all day. It's preheated. You do not have to wait for the preheat. After about 2.5 or 3 hours, you're going to come back and check on it. Normally at this point, it's going to be done enough to where it will crumble. So when you pick up one of the leaves, you'll find that it pretty easily crumbles in your hands. At this point, if you have a food processor and want to powder it in the food processor, you can. I like doing it by hand. It feels a little more mindful to me. Of course, when I'm out picking my plants, I'm thanking them for everything that they've given us. I'm doing my best to kind of think from the angle of like how connected I am to everything, how connected I am to the sun, the dirt, you know, all of this stuff that comes together and forms this life that then we can use to help keep ourselves sustained. So what I do at this point is I pretty much just take my molcajete, or, you know, a mortar and pestle if you're just using the ones with the regular hand doohickey. Is this the mortar or is this the pestle? Anyway, my molcajete, and I'm just going to crunch this up. If you find yourself into things like Reiki and whatnot, this is a great time to be charging it with Reiki, doing some energy work, that kind of thing. And it very quickly becomes powder. Doesn't take much. And there you have it. So you can go back and crunch it up a little bit more if it has some of the bigger pieces in it. You can leave it just a little bit more like a cut and sifted herb if you wanted to do it that way. Whatever you feel like is going to be best for your scenario. I like to have myself a clean jar that has a bit of a rubber top on it to kind of seal the air. This will last you, this powder will last you at least 6 months. We used it up well before that 6 months is up, so we never have to wonder about it. If you open your jar and you smell it and there's a mildew smell to it, then you need to go ahead and dump the jar. Sometimes if you don't quite let it go long enough, then there'll be a mildew smell. But if you wait until you can almost crumble it with your, not almost, if you wait until you can crumble it with your hands, then you're going to find that there's not any issues with dampness causing mildew or mold later. As you saw earlier, I have a ton of this left to do. So I'm going to be doing this pretty much all afternoon, probably tomorrow. It's a lot of extra work. If you don't have plants yourself, you may be saying, why would anybody choose to do this? But when you've already gifted a ton of it to neighbors and friends, and you're ready to try to keep some for yourself for the time that you can't grow this. You know, up north you can grow kale a lot longer than we can. Some people can grow it all summer long. We can't do that down here. It will just burn up. So having things like this where you can dehydrate, powder the kind of plants that you maybe can't get the rest of the year can come in handy. And there it is. Super pretty. You can see it in there. Again, I kind of expect this to be full up by the time I'm done, just because I have so many more batches to go. What was in here was about a third of what I picked this morning. So it's going to be a lot of extra work. But it's a little bit like baking bread. I'm not spending all day staring at it. When you bake bread, it has to rise 2 or 3 times depending on the type of bread that you're cooking. So in between the rising, I will go and do other things. You know, if it's having to rise on the counter and I'm not having to sit there and knead on it, I'm going to be working on other stuff. So even though it takes a long time to process, it's not heavily labor intensive, and it can be a really easy thing that you can add to your habits and give yourself a little extra of the, you know, the amino acids, the vitamin C, that kind of thing that you find in kale. If you're not already listening to the podcast, make sure that you check it out. You can ask Alexa to play Natural Wellness Transformations with Laura Guthrie, and it will begin playing the latest episode. I've got a lot of local practitioners that have been doing interviews with me, and then of course in between those sessions I talk about all kinds of different things natural wellness related. It's a good time. If you're ready for a consult, you can go to the website naturalwellnesstransformations.com. Click on consultation. You can pick a 30-minute spot. It is a pay what you can. So instead of my normal $45 for 30 minutes, you just pay whatever you feel you can afford. I'm doing that until some of this quarantine type stuff has ended. I know some people are still under stay-at-home orders. Some people are now free to do as they please. And I just encourage you, if you're struggling, anything like that, take advantage of that and get in touch with me, and let's get you some ideas going for how you can help yourself. Recently, I've helped a couple of people who are single parents, and they're just looking for ideas as to what in the world they can be doing to try to be healthier while they are trying to juggle, you know, work from home, kids at the house, all that other stuff. And we've worked through some of that stuff together. So please don't hesitate to reach out. I'm here. I'm looking forward to meeting everyone. And yeah, stay tuned. Next time, I'm actually going to be doing a review on some nail polish that's supposed to have a lot of herbal infused ingredients in it. I went ahead and just bought the stuff from Grove to see how it's going to work. So let me know what other things you'd like for me to talk about. Drop them in the comments, and I'll be glad to bust some herbal myths or some wellness myths or whatever else that might interest you guys at this point. I'll catch you next time. Bye.